Scott.
Tristan. That's my favorite way that we like start an episode is when we just say each other's names.
Scott.
One day we'll just say our own names. I'll be like, Scott.
Tristan. It's probably not aliens. And then just content. The shortest intro we've ever done.
Yeah.
So we didn't talk about this on the show yet because we plan to do a bit more on it. But back in November of 2022, remember those salad days?
What was happening then? Twitter was going wild.
Yeah, that was when I think...
That's all I remember.
Yeah. But something happened on November 11th, 2022, and not just Remembrance Day or Armistice Day or whatever it's called in America.
Okay.
It was a Friday. And as anybody who is a regular binger of Netflix knows, that Friday is when their new shows come out.
That's right.
And on that day, Tristan and the Probably Not Aliens Twitter accounts, emails, in approximately every possible way that any human being has ever conceived of for sending messages to me, bombarded me with the absolute deluge of making sure that I was aware of the new hit Netflix documentary, Ancient Apocalypse.
Yeah, baby.
And it has subsequently destroyed my life.
Oh, no. But why? It seemed so promising and so good.
Yeah, first of all, I had to watch it, which not recommended.
How long is it?
It's 8 hours.
Oh, I thought it was like
long episodes.
I didn't know it was a series. I thought it was just a movie.
No.
Oh no.
And then I also agreed that I should make a video about it. And if this podcast comes out, if I haven't ruined my life next week, then this podcast should be coming out about a week after I have released this video.
Yes.
That is my official response to Ancient Apocalypse.
Are you aware that there was also a 2021 series called Ancient Apocalypse?
No. Is it also Graham Hancock's thing?
It doesn't look like he's involved in this one. But they do come out at around the same time. That's weird. Like a year apart.
It's the prologue.
There's 6 episodes instead of 8. So this one's shorter.
That would have been nice. So that happened. And then because I needed to make a response to it, it turns out that Graham Hancock's density of wrongness is pretty dense.
Yeah.
So the episode is turning out to be, we just had a long conversation before this podcast started about video editing because this is turning into an absolute chonker of a video, and to the point where I had to have like a sponsor deadline extended and all sorts of stuff because, like I said, this video is ruining my life. Ancient Apocalypse has like taken hours off the end of my life because I had to watch it, and then I had to write about it, and then I had to film it, and every part of the process, because Graham Hancock is so annoying, has like taken like 4 times longer than it should.
Hold on. I'm on the IMDb page for Ancient Apocalypse, the actual one you're talking about, not the 2021 TV show. And I'm not on the 2001 TV show, which also was called Ancient Apocalypse. So this is a 2022 Ancient. I'm on the IMDb page for it, and it says stars in order. Graham Hancock, who we will be talking about today.
Yeah.
Second star, Joe Rogan?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll get to that.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry for you.
Yeah. It gets very good. Wait, are you telling me that you're in Ancient Apocalypse?
Because I'm a bald guy like Joe Rogan?
No, I thought you just told me that you are in it, that you're on the IMDb page for it. Oh, you're on the IMDb page. Okay. My brain interpreted that somehow you were in the credits for Ancient Apocalypse.
I was wondering why your reaction was so big. Like, whoa, Scott, you're able to type in imdb.com?
Okay, that makes
no,
more
I
sense.
am not. I'm not credited on the page of IMDb. I just visited just now the page on IMDb.
Does Scott Penis Wander have an IMDb page? He does. He's Scott Nicewander. He knows nothing about what we're talking today, but he is a director of Nerdsync who is known for Nerdsync, in which you are a director that has been going since 2013. 2022's Night of the Coconut.
I was in that, as in a cameo. Shout out to Patrick Willems.
You're credited for 2 episodes of Philosophy Tube in 2015 and 2016. I think that's how. I know you through Abigail, but I think I saw you did one, and then also there was just a whole video that is literally a parody of Nerdsync.
I didn't realize that I had an IMDb page. What if the episode was just about this now?
And then you were on an episode of the Film Brain podcast.
I was. We talked about the Batman last year. Gosh, we talked about that movie for 3 hours. That was so much fun.
You talked about it for as long as the movie is.
That's exactly right.
So there you go. That is the Scott Nicewander IMDb page. Now let's see if Tristan Johnson has one. I doubt it.
There's got to be more than one Tristan Johnson.
There is. It's an extremely common name.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I do have one. I am known for being in one episode of Philosophy Tube because I did one voiceover in the episode that had Adam Conover on it as the much bigger guest.
2 great guests.
That's my 5 degrees of separation from Adam Conover. I think I have like several 5 degrees of separations from Adam Conover in multiple directions. But either way, this is a podcast where we look up ourselves on IMDb.
Yeah.
It's probably not.
This is a podcast called It's Probably Not Aliens. It doesn't have its own IMDb page, I'm pretty sure. Yet.
It seems like podcasts can have it, so.
Yeah. What we normally look at, Ancient Aliens, the TV show, and debunk some of their claims, or really just, look into them, see what alternative theories there are. As if the Ancient Aliens aren't alternative theories already,
As opposed to the mainstream alien theories.
Right, exactly. But we're doing something really special today, and it's all thanks to this other host right here.
Hi, my name is Tristan Johnson. I have a cold. I am tired because I don't sleep anymore, and today, and I am ready to take it to one of the greats of the this is Chariot of the Cranks. That is
Chariot of the Cranks. That's good.
Because also because this guy released a book called Fingerprints of the Gods, and so I thought like, oh, chariots, fingerprints. Anyways.
Oh, I see.
We're talking about Graham Hancock today, who is a very big cheese in this pseudo-archaeology world, because Graham Hancock, if you actually do go to the Wikipedia page for pseudo-archaeology, there are 2 pictures at the top of the page. Eric von Daniken and Graham Hancock. They are the 2 girl bosses of the world of pseudo-archaeological cranks.
They are girl bosses, and I wish they would gatekeep, to be honest with you.
So today we're talking about Graham Hancock, who is at the center of the modern attempt to make a case for the existence of Atlantis. And we have talked about Atlantis, and I'm kind of dancing on the details of Atlantis theory in this episode or episodes, because I feel like Atlantis is a big enough topic that it should be its own episode in the future.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I love that movie.
But I think that it's important because as we are talking about ancient astronaut theory, this podcast is about ancient astronaut theory, pseudo-history, pseudo-archaeology, and everything like that. But today we are profiling one of the big names in that field. And we've talked a lot about ancient astronaut theory because we are mostly responding to Ancient Aliens. But Graham Hancock and these sort of Atlantis people are sort of like a nice like parallel thread of most of the same kinds of arguments. There's a lot of cases where you see things that that people claim are aliens on Ancient Aliens, and then you go to Graham Hancock's work, and then he'll say the same thing, but that means that there was an ancient civilization in the Ice Age that coincidentally was also white and and passed on all of their genius to other civilizations.
Oh, thanks, white people.
Man,
love that.
Just keep giving.
Can I ask a question? Because I've not seen this series, but I am, as I said, I am visiting the IMDb page right now. And is that when they say the ancient apocalypse, do they mean it was one thing that sort of wiped out because some of the descriptions of the episodes say that they're finding proof for the date of the ancient apocalypse or whatever. But but the way that they're traveling, the way the many episodes and time periods and cultures makes it seem like there's multiple ancient apocalypses.
So here's the general case. So Graham Hancock is, again, a writer who promotes a lot of pseudoscience about ancient civilizations. The main thrust, and we'll get into some of the details of his theories later, but the main thrust is that he believes that there was 20,000 years ago during the last ice age, a major, an advanced civilization that did all sorts of cool things. And then there was an asteroid impact that started a period called the Younger Dryas period, which was basically a period where there was really abrupt climate change. The temperatures got really, really cold for a little while. Basically then it got warmer, sea levels rose. It's basically the beginning of the end of the last ice age. But he thinks that this happened because of an asteroid, which is based on a sort of hypothesis in geology that I think a lot of people are not really convinced by anymore, given some evidence that came out in actually as recently as last year. So we could talk about that, but I get into that in my video a lot. And, but basically, his idea is
you're just using this podcast to promote your YouTube channel called Step Back, which you can find at stepback.com. That's not right, is it?
Stepbackhistory.com. But I wanted to use the video to promote the podcast.
Oh, okay.
But basically, the idea is that there's ancient civilization, which like people like Plato called Atlantis. After it collapsed, the survivors then went on to spread the ideas of their civilizations onto all of these different cultures. And that's why he tries to argue that a lot of the great artifacts of archaeology are actually either a lot older than they are, or tries to argue that they are out of place with the culture that made them, which implies that somebody from the outside taught them how to do it. So it's a lot of like, how could these people, it's a lot of mirroring the exact same arguments as Ancient Aliens, where it's like, how could these people possibly have moved big rock,
How do they move, how to move big rock?
Mm-hmm.
How do someone must have taught them ramps. Someone must have came in from the outside and taught them about inclined planes.
Yeah, so Atlantis people tend to use the same arguments, and it does also come from a place that has its roots in white supremacy and colonialist ideas about different cultures and such. Basically, his first big book, as we'll get into in a little bit, is essentially a rehash of a book by Ignatius Donnelly that came out in the 1800s that essentially tries to make the same argument. But anyways, today we're going to talk about the man, the myth, the legend, and then we get into his oeuvre, his work.
Yeah. All right. His world, his whole way of being. This guy looks so familiar to me. I'm sure I've seen him around a whole lot.
I haven't watched, Ancient Aliens past the point that, I actually have to today or tomorrow for the next episodes. I have to go watch some more of the show. But my guess is that if he does not show up at some point, I'd be very surprised.
You know what? I'm on IMDb. I could just look up where else he's been in.
He's been in a lot of things, and also a lot of less than stellar media institutions have brought him on to make documentaries, like Netflix, for example.
Yeah, this is my superpower: is I never close any tabs.
Well, can I tell you about Graham Hancock's early life and his time as like an almost legitimate person before he decided to become a full-blown crank?
Absolutely, I would love that. I want to know all about this boy.
All right. Well, first things first, he's a boomer. Hancock was born.
No.
Yeah, Graham Hancock was...
Graham Hawk.
Sorry, that's my nose. Graham Hancock was born in Edinburgh, in Scotland, on the 2nd of August, 1950, but at the age of 3, moved with his parents to India, where his father worked as a surgeon. When he got older, he moved back to the UK and graduated from Durham University in 1973 with a degree in sociology, and used that to become a journalist. And as far as I can tell, he was sort of like a left-wing journalist who focused on issues to do with international development and global inequality. Like, cool. And he even wrote a few books to that extent. He worked for some pretty big newspapers like The Times, the Sunday Times, The Independent, The Guardian. He was a co-editor for the New Internationalist magazine for 3 years. And for a while, he was actually The Economist's East Africa correspondent, where he did a lot of work in Ethiopia.
Okay.
And again, he talked about economic development, social development, and a lot of the issues to do with that. In retrospect, and this will speak a lot to some stuff that we'll get to in probably part 2, but in 1987, he claims that from about the year of 1987 onwards, he was, quote, pretty much stoned all the time.
Amazing.
He was pretty much permanently stoned. Apparently, he was a really big fan of cannabis, which, like, I'm also a fan of cannabis, so I don't fault him for that. But the fact that he was pretty much constantly on drugs for all that time, and then starting in like the early 1990s, starts getting into weird esoteric Atlantis stuff, might show us a little bit of an origin story. I feel like Graham Hancock's relationship with drugs is an interesting thread to put through this.
It is also around the same time where he starts appearing on TV. Which I don't know if you have that mentioned at all in your outline. But no, he was in such great works like Great Pyramid, Gateway to the Stars, Chariots of the Gods, The Mysteries Continue. That's from 1996. Ancient Mysteries, Atlantis, In Search of a Lost Continent from 1997. Same great year. So many more. tons more, including, yes, 18 episodes of Ancient Aliens.
Perfect. All right, then we will run into him again.
He was also in a show. Sorry, this is just funny given the context that we're talking about. He was also in a show in 2018 just called Psychedelica, so that's fun.
Oh,
also
yeah,
to
yeah,
keep
yeah.
in mind.
So yeah, his argument is that a lot of ancient monuments are much older than archaeologists say, and uses that to say that Atlantis is real, and that a lot of his ideas are recycled works of Ignatius Donnelly, who wrote a book called Atlantis, the Antediluvian World. I don't know why, but D sounds are hard for me to say with my nose stuffed up. The Antediluvian World in 1882, a book that has been discredited for a very long time.
Okay.
Now, Hancock's claims and the ways that he comes about them, which we'll learn very quickly, is mostly vibes-based.
I would expect nothing less.
Are pretty widely regarded as pseudo-archaeology. Yeah, if you watch Ancient Apocalypse, a lot of the times he'll be like, archaeologists say this pretty logical thing, but that doesn't convince me. I don't think it's that way. And then it's like, okay, why? And then he's just like, I don't know. It just doesn't read that way to me.
Doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
The vibes are off.
The vibes are off. There is nobody who has needed a vibe check more than Gramuel Hancock. But in a book called Archaeological Fantasies, a guy by the name of Garrett Fagan pointed out that people like him cherry pick their evidence and misrepresent facts. For one example from his 1995 book, Hancock wrote that the best recent evidence points that large regions of Antarctica had been ice-free until about 6,000 years ago. Oh yeah, also he's a climate change denier.
Oh, great.
Referring to the Piri-Reis map and Hapgood's work from the 1960s, what is left is entirely unmentioned, and extensive studies of the Antarctic ice sheets by George H. Denton, published in 1981, which show that the ice to be hundreds of thousands of years old.
How can you be a climate change denier, but then also base a lot of your search for Atlantis around, like, there was the climate changed a lot in the past and things like that. I guess like a current climate change denier, like things are fine now.
So what I found is that there's this other map. There's like a sister to the Piri-Reis map, which is called I think it's like the Ignatius Phineas map or something like that. I definitely mispronounced that, but let me actually just find I don't want to have to add another item to my corrections episode. So I'm going to
we're jumpy now.
Yeah. The Orontius Phineas map is what it's called. And this, as I learned from a wonderful YouTuber by the name of Mini Minuteman, who does basically is a YouTube channel that debunks pseudo-archaeology. That's
amazing, and also is a person that so many people have requested that we get on the podcast.
Yes,
so we'll have to reach out.
But Mini Minuteman has done an episode on the Orontius Phineas map, and the Orontius Phineas map is used by a sort of small branch of pseudo-archaeologists who are basically trying to prove that climate change isn't real, or they're trying to prove that it's not anthropogenic, because they're trying to say look, not too long ago, Antarctica had no ice on it, so all that ice is new, so that the climate changes a lot faster than you think.
I see. So it's less about denying that the climate can change and does change, but more so just that it's not our fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what they think.
And so a lot of times Atlantis people will claim that is where Atlantis was. Or they claim that, like in the case that in Ancient Apocalypse, Trez makes the argument that all of the evidence that would make his case were conveniently all destroyed by asteroids.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Those asteroids. Oh, I mean, hasn't that happened to all of us?
Yeah.
You're about to finish your big project, about to turn it in for that big final grade, and then boom, asteroid. Oh, man.
Asteroid ate my homework.
Oh, shucks.
But a good example of the kind of work he does is Hancock will say that, oh, look, I found this evidence from the 1960s that shows that Antarctica might have had no ice 6,000 years ago, but then ignore that 20 years after that, there is evidence that shows that the ice is hundreds of thousands of years old. Or another one is that when he was describing the Bolivian city of Tiwanaku, which I feel have we talked about Tiwanaku on this episode before?
Okay, it sounds familiar.
Pumapunku is there.
Pumapunku.
Yeah. So Hancock says that it's a mysterious site about which very little is known. Again, also, pseudo-archaeologists always touch on the exact same topics, right?
Yeah.
And said that minimal archaeology has been done on the site over recent years, but that it actually might date, and because of that, he claims that it's probably, 17,000 years old instead of maybe maybe 1,000 years old like we thought. But there has been dozens of excavations. And as we pointed out, that, the site is very important for like Bolivian national identity and like all this stuff.
That is really, and I don't know if he goes into more evidence to back up like his claim, but just to be like, I don't know, man, not a lot is known about it. It's probably like 10 times older than we thought it was. It's like, yeah, that's not anything.
You have basically summarized the primary argument loop of Graham Hancock. It's basically, this is what everyone says, but there's holes in the data. So therefore, I have this entire other idea that has no evidence backing it, and I believe that. And if you disagree with that, I have spent the first chapter of this book trying to talk about how there's a grand conspiracy of all the archaeologists to discredit me. So like that's his whole, that's his like his OODA loop, if you will.
Now, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with the idea of questioning, sources in history and things like that, but you can't just like make up something then and be like, I don't know, I bet it's probably way older. And without any evidence, I'm gonna tell you a bunch of other stuff.
He's like the living embodiment of those Twitter memes that are like what's your citation? And then it's like, I saw it in a dream, or like, like, the ones I'm talking about, like they usually have Dr. Manhattan, like it was revealed to me in a dream.
I mean, it's the vibes. Yeah.
Yeah. The vibes. The other things that he has gone on the record to say that are pretty interesting is that he has said that, he said that the ancient Maya people who we've talked about a lot were only, quote, semi-civilized, and that their achievements are generally unremarkable, because he was trying to make the argument that they learned their calendar from an older, much more advanced civilization. So already very charming guy.
Great.
And he's also one of the big proponents of the Orion correlation theory, which we have talked about in other episodes. When we talked about the American Southwest, we talked about Chaco Canyon. That this idea is that a bunch of things in the past are all aligned with the Orion's belt constellation. And the big one is the temples, the pyramids of Giza line up with it, even though apparently I learned a new fact, and that is they're not. In fact, they're off by as much as 6 degrees.
But it's also like, and we've talked about this a little bit before, but Orion's belt is almost a line.
Yeah.
It's almost a straight line. So like you could say that anything looks like it's aligned with Orion's belt.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense that other cultures would look up, like distinct, separate cultures would look up into the sky and see that constellation because it's a line.
Did you know that they also have stars in Egypt and America? Wild.
That's wild. I thought they're on like different parts of the Earth, so they would have different stars. Is that not true?
They're on the same hemisphere, though. That's true if you're talking about the northern and southern hemisphere, but the constellations are the same in northern Africa and in Mesoamerica because they're on the same hemisphere. So
gotcha.
So that is like the general bit of who Graham Hancock is and his general vibes. So do you want to get into, I just decided to take a different tack, which is just to go through his bibliography, go book by book through his backstory.
Well, you can go book by book, and I'm still on his IMDb page, and we'll go book by book, TV show by made for TV movie by made for TV movie.
Nice.
Let's go. This episode is sponsored by NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/probablynotaliens to get up to 1 extra year of your online security subscription for free as an exclusive gift. Well, the weather's starting to heat up again. I mean, not this week where I am, it actually snowed, but when it does heat up, you can expect me to be out on the old boat, wearing a floral shirt and casting away into that great big beautiful blue all day long. Now to be clear, I don't have a boat or personally know anyone who does, nor have I casted a fishing line in the last decade of my life, but I do own lots of floral shirts, too many in fact, so I do feel right at home in the fishing community, as long as the kind of fishing we're talking about is with an F, not a PH, because you see, fishing with a PH is when you send an email that looks legitimate and it might look like it's from Twitter or YouTube or Zoom or really just any online service, but it's fake. I mean, the email is real, but it was sent to you by scammers and hackers who are trying to collect your login information for the sites that you use. And if they have your email and password for one login, chances are they can use that info to figure out the login for your other online accounts, like your bank or your floral shirt dropshipping company that everyone says reads as inauthentic if you're not actually out on the open sea catching I don't know, goldfish? What's the goal? I mean, when I'm out on that boat, I'm just there for some rest and relaxation, just like you can relax as well when it comes to your online security, thanks to NordVPN Threat Protection, which includes a specific feature to warn you about phishing links, as well as features like a blocker for malicious ads and dark web monitoring to alert you if passwords have been leaked. And all of these features come with a robust VPN, so you can protect your data and unblock content from streaming services that are only available in certain countries that you might not be in. So go to nordvpn.com/probablynotaliens and check it out. The best part is that you can try it with no risk. Nord has a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it for yourself and decide. NordVPN is privacy-focused, they have 24/7 customer support, and they have apps for every major platform. Once again, that is nordvpn.com/probablynotaliens. Get yourself a 2-year plan, and you'll get some additional months for free as an exclusive gift, up to an entire year. That's a boatload of savings. That was me casting, that was like, I was fishing. I'm fishing now.
So the first book that came out by Graham Hancock came out I should say his first heel turn book, because he wrote a couple books that were about like journalism and like about Ethiopia and development and stuff like that. But then he was just like, no, this isn't
That's
generating
boring.
me enough money. I'm going to write The Sign and the Seal, The Quest for the Lost Ark of the Covenant.
Great.
Again, we're hitting all the hits, aren't we?
That's so good already.
So this book has been described to me as part travel blog and part basically like a journalist who knows nothing about archaeology going to a bunch of sites and developing his own crackpot theory based on just vibes he has about the places he goes.
It's like he's doing an Eat, Pray, Love. That's sweet.
Yeah. So this whole idea is that he is searching for the Ark of the Covenant, and he proposes that the Ark of the Covenant was removed from Solomon's temple in Jerusalem by priests during the reign of King Manasseh of Judea around the year 650 BC, and then spent about 200 years in a temple in Egypt in the city of Elephantine. But that a few hundred years later, it moved to Ethiopia via the Nile River and was kept on the island of Tana Kyrgos, which was apparently an island where that had some Jewish communities there, and then it lived there for about 800 more years until it came into the Ethiopian Orthodox Church in the 5th century, where it resists to this day, which I'm going to tread on lightly because one of the things I have mentioned is that the believers in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church do actually believe that they have the Ark of the Covenant, and I don't want to, step on anybody's religious beliefs, but...
No, absolutely. We've done an episode about the Ark of the Covenant and things like that, so it's one of those things where, like, how would I know? I've not been there, What
I will say, though, is that his claim does contradict the Ethiopian church that believes that it happened 200 years earlier and that it was stolen from Solomon's temple during the king of Solomon himself. So, basically, like, it has like a different, like, there's some different things. One review I found was from a guy named Desmond Ryan of the Philadelphia Inquirer, who said, if Hancock did any more speculating than what is strewn through the many pages of The Sign and the Seal, he would have to go into real estate. Great line. By the way, a lot of this is me finding extremely funny reviews that really hit it a lot.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. But the really big hit of his was Fingerprints of the Gods.
What? Was there a question mark in the title?
No, but I just see Daniken's book Von Daniken's book in my head, right?
Chariots of the Gods? Question mark?
I just love there's a question mark. I don't know why, but it makes the book so much funnier to look at. The Evidence of Earth's Lost Civilization came out in 1995, and this was his really big hit. This was the one that sold tons of copies and put him on the map. And he makes his argument that there was a civilization centered on Antarctica, which was farther from the South Pole than today, because some people who are in this realm believe that Antarctica used to have no ice on it, but then there was a dramatic changing of the magnetic poles of the planet, which moved the South Pole to Antarctica and then put it under colder patterns and made it freeze. And that's not so the idea is that is a thing that does happen. The Earth's magnetic field does have a habit of shifting every on very large scales, but what I will say is that it does not happen that dramatically. It's a process that takes many thousands of years. where like basically on the long enough scale, usually what happens is that the poles shift sometimes on 180, so that north and south basically swap. But I'm not a magnetologist, and as we famously know, nobody knows how magnets work. So
are they alive? Are they a living being? We don't know.
Yeah, but generally the thing we need to know about it is that the magnetic fields of the Earth do change from time to time. We can see this by looking at magnetically sensitive metals in stone, because if you think about it, like if you find magnetic stone or magnetic metals that in stone that were lava, and you know about what time that crystallized, then which way everything is pointing would give some idea as to what the magnetic field of the planet was like at that time. And sometimes it's out of place.
Clever.
Yeah.
Man, science is cool, man.
Yeah. So sometimes the magnetic poles do shift or they weaken for a period of time. And if that were to happen in modern day, it would take tens of thousands of years. And what we would see is basically the reliability of compasses start to decrease. And there would be an increase in cancer rates because the magnetosphere is a big thing that protects us from cosmic rays. But according to Graham Hancock, that this happened that in 10,450 BC, a major pole shift took place, and that which is part of a theory done by Charles Hapgood called Earth crustal displacement, and that the refugees from this civilization then left and built ancient Egypt and the Olmecs and the Aztecs and the Maya, because they all built triangle buildings.
Oh, I see. I was going to ask how they're all related, but I do get it. It's the triangle buildings.
Yeah, nobody could ever think to make a triangle before that.
No one ever thought if we're trying to make a big building, we should make sure it has a big base and then have it go up to a point before. No one thought of that.
I love how he tries to preempt that, because he goes to Cholula in the documentary series. He goes to Cholula and he says like, yeah, so some people say that like, oh, pyramids are the same in all these different places because they built it from the base. And then and his response was, well, I don't know if I believe that. And then
cool.
And just was like,
oh, I'm sorry I even brought it up, Tristan. He's clearly got a response to everything.
Yeah.
I have egg on my face now.
Yeah. It's pretty wild that he like does that kind of stuff. And also the theory of Earth crustal displacement, by the way, is in opposition to a more common geological theory, which is plate tectonics. So this is a truther about plate tectonics, the idea that the Earth is made up of plates that are moving, evidence being mountains and earthquakes.
Yes, I've heard of them. I know of them.
Another author by the name of Heather Pringle actually wrote about Fingerprints of the Gods, because who made the very obvious connection that I am dancing around and probably will play more into when we talk about Atlantis proper, but mentions that this is a pseudoscientific tradition that goes all the way back to people like H.S. Bellamy and Dennis Seurat, and the work of people like Heinrich Himmler, who had the Racial Research Institute and was trying to defend the existence of a Nordic race of Atlanteans who then spread their civilization to the rest of the world. Because of course they did. Yeah.
No good.
Yeah, there's another. That's another one that shows up a lot when we talk about this stuff. Fun story for another time, for sure. Another person who talked about it is an archaeologist by the name of Kenneth Fetter, who is may not have said his name many times on the podcast, but he shows up a lot because he writes a lot about pseudoarchaeology.
Okay.
He described this book as a Victorian travelogue of a writer untrained in archaeology who credits a mysterious white people for the achievements of the ancient civilizations he visits. Hancock notably refers to the Maya as, quote, jungle-dwelling Indians who couldn't possibly come up with sophisticated calendar. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it is in this book where Graham Hancock goes masks off and he says that the Atlanteans were definitely white.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Despite him calling the Maya people jungle-dwelling, I don't even want to repeat the other word.
Yeah.
Despite calling them that, the book has been translated into 27 languages and is estimated to have sold over 5 million copies worldwide.
Great.
Also, in 2001, it was so popular that he republished the book with an updated version that is called Fingerprints of the Gods, The Quest Continues.
Cool, man. The quest continues.
Yep. And, it was also cited as the main inspiration for a movie called 2012.
Oh, no.
Made by the guy who made The Day After Tomorrow.
But he wasn't in... Hold on. Was he in the movie?
I don't know if he was in the movie, but...
that would be fun. He was not. in the movie.
But Roland Emmerich has directly cited that that Graham Hancock was his inspiration for that movie.
I don't know if it's great to say that Graham Hancock is an inspiration for anything. I don't know if the words, Graham Hancock was my inspiration for those words, regardless of what I say next, come out of my mouth. I'm already in trouble, I feel.
Yeah, it's like I didn't like what the Nazis did. But and nothing after that is nothing after that comes.
You cannot salvage it after that.
So that's his big book, and he followed it up with another great book called The Message of the Sphinx: A Quest for the Hidden Legacy of Mankind. So this is
his quests. This guy loves a good quest.
Yeah. So this is a collab that he did with Robert Bovell, who he collaborates with a lot on his books. That came out in 1996, which argues that the Sphinx and the pyramids are a lot older, using astronomical data, because another thing he does is that if his things are off, like, the Giza pyramids being unaligned, he's just like, well, that's because they're so old that because of the precession of the equinoxes, they were aligned when they were built 20,000 years ago.
Okay. All right. Makes sense to me. Everything checks out.
So he argues that if you look at the erosion patterns of things like the Great Sphinx and the pyramids, there's a lot of evidence that there is erosion on them that came from floods or rainfalls.
But they're in deserts.
Yeah, how could that be? And he says it's because, 11,500 years ago, there was a global flood, which he also believes in. The Noah's flood, of course.
We've talked about that
before. We can't do that without talking about Noah's flood. And that because of that, it led to massive floods in Egypt about, 15,000 to 10,000 years ago that then caused these things to experience water erosion.
Cool. Big global flood.
Yeah.
Everything you're saying basically right now it's reflected in his filmography. I guess not his filmography, but it's reflected in his film credits, like 5 to 10 years after all the things that you're saying. So like he was in a 2002 series called Underworld, Flooded Kingdoms of the Ice Age. He was in Quest for the Lost Civilization. Again, he loves his quests.
Yeah.
A lot of different Atlantis stuff. 2012 Science or Superstition.
He knew the History Channel, or the History Channel style game way before a lot of people were jumping on board. But this is basically a hypothesis. I do like that when people are talking about really shitty crank archaeology, it very often goes by the something hypothesis. Mm-hmm. Like when I was researching the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, and it's like, yep. Mm-hmm. So the general claim is that the Sphinx does show signs of there being water damage or water erosion on it, and that is something that is actually not disputed. We do that there is signs of water erosion on these things, and to them that implies that it was built a lot older than it was at a time when the climate was a little bit wetter.
All right,
but more recent geological evidence has shown that around 2200 BC there actually was a period of heavy rainfall that happened during the Old Kingdom in Egypt, which very much aligns closer to what we know, because the Sphinx was probably built around 2500 BCE. So therefore, it would have been about 300 years old. Oh. It would have been about 300 years old 4,200 years ago when these rainfalls happened. Just Egypt.
Okay.
Fucking Egypt, man.
Egypt, so old.
Why everything's so old?
So just to rephrase what you're saying, the pyramid existed for 300 years during the time where these rainfalls could have happened, heavy rainfalls.
When the rainfalls happened, the Sphinx specifically
the Sphinx
was 300 years old at that point.
So it existed. So it had 300 years of water erosion, basically. I mean, not exactly 300.
When it was 300 years old, it experienced a period of heavy rainfall, and sandstone does not handle rain very well. So there are permanent signs on the Sphinx of water erosion from that period. But the people here use that to try and say, actually, that means that it was built in 9700 BCE, making it 11,000 years old, which would have made it said that it was built during the Ice Age, which is an unfact. It's a factant.
What? How did they get that?
Again, this is a strange thing. Here's the established belief. I don't believe that. Here's my vibes-based reasoning, and then everybody's conspiracy. Yeah,
I don't know. It seems older than me.
And Dr. Hawass, the really big what's it called? The really big Egyptologist who worked for the government for many years, has pointed out that this theory, quote, never demonstrates why the rainfall over the last 4,500 years would not be sufficient to round off the corners. because Giza has actually, has had rain before. It is a desert, but it isn't like, completely barren. It does still get rain. It is still close to the ocean or it's close to the Mediterranean. So yeah, it's dry, but it's not like...
It's old. That's the thing, right?
Anything that sticks around for 4,000 years, even if it rains once every 10 years, that still has it being rained on hundreds of times, right?
That's the thing, right? Because they're trying to claim that it's much, much older. It wouldn't... the water erosion wouldn't have been enough over the past 4,500 years, but it's 4,500 years.
How old do you need it to be?
How old do you need it to be before it's the rain probably had an effect on it? And it does rain.
It does rain in Egypt. There was that picture a few years ago where it snowed on the pyramids. Egypt is a desert, but deserts don't mean that they except for the desert in Peru, which actually has never, there's a desert in Peru that actually has never seen one documented rainfall the entire time we've been measuring, but that place is weird. But it does rain in Egypt, and it does apparently snow in Egypt every once in a while. But yeah, and also anything that was made of sandstone built in 9700 BCE would not be around today. It would be rubble. That is way too long for something as soft as sandstone to survive.
Yeah, that's also true.
So that was his next one. Are you ready? He goes to another level in the next one.
I'm so ready. Okay. I've been ready.
His next book is that he worked on, again, another collaboration with Boval and another guy by the name of Gringsby.
Okay.
Called, I don't know if you're ready for this one.
All right, I'm standing.
We go to some new places. So he writes a book called The Mars Mystery, A Tale of the End of Two Worlds, in which he looks at some of the things. Do you remember how back in the 1970s they had those first pictures of the surface of Mars, and there was that really low resolution photograph of that mountain that, because of a low resolution and the shadows, people thought it was a face?
It's like a face. It was like a smiley face.
So he's one of the people who took that and ran with it and claimed that it was a bunch of human-like faces and pyramids on Mars. And
a bunch of them.
Yeah, and one review of this book I found said, "Rarely can so little evidence have inspired so much speculation." One of Goodreads review said, "The logical sloppiness of this book is breathtaking."
Amazing.
So the main thing is, I'm surprised we haven't talked about this sooner, but there was until conspicuously a few years ago, there was this whole discussion about a face on Mars, because there was the first pictures we had of the surface of Mars that came from an orbiting satellite were very low resolution, and there is one where, because of the light and everything like that, it looks like a face. But then we went back to Mars and took other pictures of it, and it shows that in high resolution it looks nothing like a face.
It's not a face.
Yeah.
Darn.
But it seems that apparently the one way that this book was described is that the first half is like that, and then it comes out around the time that those high resolution come out, and then sort of veers into being a story about how, instead of focusing on Mars, let's focus about how civilizations collapse on Earth. But then also in the book says that the face has some connection to Egyptian mythology.
Sure.
And
of course it does.
And that a Mars-like doom waits for Earth unless we take steps to avert it. And it just becomes a whole different book. And also, some people have argued that the face on Mars is a face, but that it's been destroyed by asteroids that destroyed Mars's atmosphere as well.
Darn, they got my homework again, Tristan. Those asteroids, they got me.
So basically, when they were confronted with the face not being a face, they were like, actually, it was a face, but it got hit by an asteroid, and no, it's not a face anymore.
We took a photo at the exact right time when it was a face.
Yeah.
And it's not a face anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's not our fault. You saw the photo.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Great photo.
It's a work of art. The next book he gets into is a book called Heaven's Mirror, The Quest for the Lost Civilization, which I was not able to find any reviews or much data about, except I could find that he did a documentary he did some sort of documentary that...
A TV miniseries,
I guess, that was named the same thing. And... It is. It is available on YouTube in a very low resolution sort of bootleg copy. You can find occasional educational, interesting documentaries on YouTube that are just blatantly ripped off from television.
Fantastic. Yes. Again with his quest for the lost civilization. Yep, 1998.
I don't have a whole lot to report on this because basically it's just the Orion correlation theory that we've talked about in previous episodes. So It's just sort of the book that really outlines that belief of his.
Outlines the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get it.
His next book after that was Underworld, The Mysterious Origins of Civilization.
I mentioned this earlier. This also got a TV thing. Yeah. A TV series.
This book was apparently 800 pages long. And the idea that basically the last ice age ended and had sea levels rise, which caused the global flood that ended the world and subsequently destroyed all of the evidence of his lost civilization. And
darn.
I love this quote from a review I found. Graham, who makes it clear countless times throughout the book that he's not a scientist and doesn't have expertise in training, does have his scuba license, and he believes and posits at excruciating length that he will find these submerged civilizations.
Good luck.
Yeah, he's still working on that one, I think.
Those are the only two IMDb credits where he is also credited as a writer. So those two, Quest for the Lost Civilization and Underworld, Flooded Kingdoms of the Ice Age.
Beautiful.
Those are the only two TV things he's written.
Sweet. I love it.
Good on ya.
In that, he also, it turns into another one of his books. And you see this a little bit in Ancient Apocalypse as well, where it's part him elaborating all of these theories he has. And at the same time, it's also just a description of various different, like, it seems like Underworld is like, he got really into scuba diving for a little bit. And he decided to write a book about how there's civilizations under the ocean to justify, like, getting a book advanced so that he could go on, like, a scuba diving trip around the world.
Yeah. This is the James Cameron approach, right? Like, I really want to go, I want to put myself in a little tiny submarine and go to the bottom of the ocean, but I need to fund it by making a movie about the Titanic first. Yeah. If I make a movie about the Titanic, they'll let me go down and film stuff at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, that's why Avatar 3 is going to take place at like Disneyland or something, so that he could just go on a vacation with his kids or whatever.
Now it's more the Adam Sandler approach of just like, I want to go on a vacation. How can I fund this movie to be at a place where I want a vacation at?
A true content creator. I have on more than one occasion when I went to Mexico been like, should I like make a video at like a Mayan site and like make it content? And I'm like, do I want to drag my filming equipment to the Yucatan Peninsula and just like, expose it to that much humidity, and also at the same time have to pack an entire camera and tripod and recording equipment and haul it with me on my vacation?
Now, here's what you do. You just film a segment of the video on your phone while you're on vacation.
There you go.
And then, boom, that was a trip. That was a research trip. And I have evidence by this one little clip that I put in a video.
Now it is a tax-deductible vacation.
I have no idea if that actually would work. Don't take my tax advice, anybody.
No.
I don't know what I'm doing.
If you ever try to write off your resort trip as a business expense, that is going to, like, you are guaranteed to be audited.
Unless your name is Adam Sandler.
Unless your name is Adam Sandler. And then we get to Talismans, Sacred Cities, and Secret Faith, which apparently is another collab between Hancock and Bovell. And it's apparently this belief that it treads on a lot of like weird theories about ancient Christianity that I think we haven't talked about much, with like the Gnostics and the Cathars, trying to find that there's like, this is like getting into like Da Vinci Code territory of believing that there's like a secret society that tries to preserve the beliefs of the Gnostics and the Cathars, and that they've like inspired parts of like Egypt, and like it's delving into a completely other area of pseudoarchaeology and crankery, and also makes me think that I need to do a episode of this podcast where I just get mad at Dan Brown for the horrible hatchet job he did to history for his books. But then it's probably not aliens. It's just going to be the podcast where Tristan takes out his petty grievances against people who do history bad.
I bet people would appreciate that episode though. That would be fun.
Now I want to have the channel, like the album art, but it's just that extremely long title. And yeah, so I've seen descriptions of it that have things about it being either treading old ground or being poorly argued. And then, but there's two things that I want to mention that are big about this one that speak a lot. One, someone pointed out that it has 57 pages of references, but it has references to people like a guy by the name of Arthur Girtom, who has, who as part of his research also uses dreams, visions, and instructions from discarnate entities from in his books. So they literally cite people's dreams and visions as part of this book.
Amazing. How looped in are you on TikTok drama right now?
Not a lot. My TikTok is a lot of sandwich stuff.
Do you know where I'm going with this just based off of the question I asked?
Like manifesting?
No. There is currently a TikTok psychic who, and this will be old news by the time people listen to this, who had a vision accusing someone of murder in a real murder investigation, a real murder case. And that person has absolutely, definitively did not do it and now is being sued. And I think that lawsuit defaulted because the psychic didn't even show up, but literally relied on visions to be I had a vision that this person killed this victim.
TikTok is wild. Last drama I heard about, they were hexing the moon. And also people were
Great.
And the other drama on top of that was just people putting out videos of them handling extremely venomous animals and everyone being no, don't, stop. There was a viral TikTok of somebody handling a blue ring octopus, which kills people very easily.
Don't touch blue animals. Yeah. That's just a simple rule. If an animal's blue, don't touch it.
Yeah. I just watched a YouTube video about that. But yeah, and also in the last chapter, which is apparently an appendix, that is the only place where they put their real purpose in the book, which is that they start talking about basically a Jewish Masonic plot that is beloved by right-wing conspiracy theorists. So basically this all is a lot of words to sort of hide the very old Masons/Jews are undermining the world, etc., etc., etc.
Great.
Yeah. Apparently Hancock, I've read some people who've responded to Ancient Apocalypse who are actually he's this native rights and environmental activist now. But man, he definitely goes into a lot of racisms before he gets there.
Sure does. And then I think you teased also that he's going to get into some drug related stuff.
Yes. So that's going to be the end of part 1. But to give you a tease of part 2, we get to talk about how he believes that a lot of civilization was developed by received wisdom from people taking ayahuasca.
Cool.
His band TED Talk.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He is a band? Is what you're saying?
His TikTok his TED Talk.
Oh, okay.
His TED Talk that TEDx has removed from their platform.
Oh, I thought you were saying that he has a band.
No. He has his band. Sorry, my nose.
I would have loved
his band TED Talk.
Gotcha.
He did a TEDx talk. He did a TEDx talk that led to a long conversation happening about the level of quality in TEDx talks. TEDx had to change its standards for who they get on as talkers or as speakers because of Hancock's thing on there, which is the War on Consciousness. We'll get in that. And then we get into Magician of the Gods, and we also get into Ancient Apocalypse, and we get into his multiple fantasy novels.
Fictional fantasy novels. He
does take a break from pseudo-archaeology for a while to start writing fantasy.
I would argue most of what he's written so far is fantasy. So I'm glad he's finding his stride.
There is a quote from him on that where it's well, everyone thinks I'm writing fantasy anyway, so I might as well give it a try. And we'll talk about how his books are apparently very bad and very racist. So we'll get onto all of that very fun stuff in part 2, which will come out next week. But until then, actually, this is a really good sell. If you want to listen to part 2 right now,
literally right now,
you can do so by going to nebula.tv/probablynotaliens and signing up. And if you sign up for less than $2.50 a month, I believe, you can get access to next week's episode now.
You get a week early on Nebula. So go check it out. It's fun. Go listen to it.
Yep. And of course, this show, you can communicate with us through @probsnotaliens. Yes, we are aware that we're getting some push to do a Mastodon. We should probably Mastodon at some point.
Because
Twitter is getting, it seems like Twitter is entering a new stage of its decline right now.
It's bad.
Yeah,
we have an Instagram. If you want to message us on it, you can DM us on Instagram. We have an Instagram account that I don't post much to, but I do have access to. So you can message us there as well.
And also, hey, Scott, if I wanted to watch stuff that you made, stuff where you talk about all sorts of fun stuff about art and creativity and the world through the lens of vulnerability and creativity, I completely flub that.
That's fine.
But where would I go to synchronize my nerds?
Boy, if your nerds are out of whack and you need to synchronize them, go check out my YouTube channel called Nerdsync. And even I was about to spell my own channel wrong.
NRDSNC. It's now a circa 2008 tech startup.
That's exactly right. NERDSYNC. That's where I post videos. It's in the month of March. I'm trying to post a video every single week. I don't know why. Mostly because I need the money. That's why. So look forward to that. I've got some Scooby-Doo stuff. I've got some comic book stuff. It's a lot of fun. Tristan, where can people find stuff about you? I mean, if they're listening to this episode and hopefully the timeline works out and they want to hear more thoughts about Ancient Apocalypse, where can they listen to that?
If you go to my YouTube channel, Step Back at stepbackhistory.com, you can watch my painfully long video where I look into, where I basically respond to all of Ancient Apocalypse. It's fun, and it's part of the greater mental breakdown that I've been having in the last few months because of this goddamn Netflix podcast or Netflix documentary. But if you want to support my continued destruction of my mental health and probably longevity of my body, you can do so by reviewing this podcast on all of the great podcast platforms.
You absolutely can. Reviews really do help us out. Reviews on Apple Podcasts, rating 5 stars. We are actually, it's very funny, we are getting to the point where our show is picking up a little bit of steam. So we're getting people who are leaving like 1-star reviews, like unironically saying that we are like CIA shills or something like that, CIA plants.
It's always a good sign.
Great sign. So if you want to help us combat those, please.
If you're that person who sent that email, cease your investigation. Only you can hear this part of the podcast. We are telling you to stop right now.
Part. We redacted it for everyone else. But yeah, all the good reviews really do help us out. And you can also tell your friends about the show. The best place to point them is a very simple website called probsnotaliens.com, which I do have to update to include Mastodon links and other things like that. Mm-hmm. But you can send people there. They can listen to our show on every single podcast platform, I think.
Yeah, all of them. We've invented some new ones that you don't even know about yet.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, my name is Scott Nicewander.
I'm Tristan Johnson, and the truth is out there. Dude, probably.
A big little hit there, huh?
Yeah. I have like an actual pen in my drawer here. Should you get it out for that's illegal on podcasts.
I'm going to do the smoke sound. Can you tell I've never smoked anything?